Imagine the deepest nothingness your mind can conceive. Now multiply it by infinity. No sound, no light, no movement, no time. Not even the concept of existence had been born. It was a void so complete that even silence would be too loud. But in the heart of that pitiless nothingness, something pulsed, something that defied all logic, that mocked any attempt at understanding, something that knew no limits because he himself had defined them. That had no origin because he was the very origin of everything. That simply was. This wasn't a God created by human imagination. It wasn't an abstract force of the universe. This was the I Am, the only name he needed, because before him there was nothing to name, and after him everything would be named through him, Elohim. The word resonates through the centuries with a power that shakes the galaxies, plural in form, singular in essence, a mystery that will take the human mind all eternity to unravel. There he was, in perfect communion with himself, planning something no creature could ever imagine. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Three persons, one essence, conspiring together to create a universe that would serve as the setting for the greatest love story ever told. And then, at the perfect moment, a moment he himself determined before time was invented, he decided that the eternal silence had lasted long enough. Burst. It wasn't just any explosion. It was the Big Bang, but not the cosmic accident scientists theorize. It was the deliberate and controlled roar of the Creator, breaking the eternal silence with a force that transformed nothingness into everything. He created existence in reality, and reality had no choice but to obey. Galaxies exploded in cascades of blinding light, coming into being at speeds that defy physics. Nebulae formed like cosmic paintings, each unique, each designed. Entire solar systems emerged in a matter of moments, with planets orbiting in perfect mathematical harmony. And there, lost in a galaxy that seemed insignificant among billions of others, but which in the eyes of the Creator was the center of everything, a small blue planet appeared. Earth. Small, perhaps to us. But for the one who created Andromeda with a thought and scattered quasars like stardust, this tiny world was his most precious jewel, for here he would place his children. Here he himself would one day walk as a man. But first there was a lot of work to be done. The earth floated in the void of space, formless, empty, plunged into primordial darkness. It wasn't the gentle darkness of night we know. It was a dense, oppressive darkness that seemed to have a substance of its own. The waters churned in a silent, chaotic fury, covering the entire planet in storms the likes of which had never seen the light of day. It was controlled chaos. God didn't create chaos by chance. He created it as a blank canvas, awaiting the first brushstrokes of the greatest artist of all time. The Holy Spirit hovered over the waters like a giant dove, carrying God's creative power, eager to see the first masterpiece begin to take shape. The earth waited for that voice that would change everything forever. And then, in the silence charged with infinite potential, God opened his mouth and spoke the most powerful words ever spoken. Let there be light. It wasn't a polite request. It wasn't a kind suggestion. It was an absolute decree that pierced reality like a bolt of lightning cutting through the night sky. The light didn't just appear. It burst forth from the very essence of God with an intensity that would make the sun look like a candle. Every photon born at that moment bore the Creator's digital signature. Each ray of light was an obedient soldier marching to banish darkness to the farthest reaches of creation. The turbulent waters, which moments before had roared in chaotic rebellion, suddenly bowed before this absolute power, their waves calming like a sea of glass. The light spread simultaneously in all directions, revealing for the first time the magnitude of creation. It was a light unlike anything we know. It wasn't just electromagnetic radiation. It was the very presence of God manifesting in visible form, carrying within it not only illumination, but also life, hope, and purpose. God looked upon his work and smiled, the first smile in history. The light held the promise of all that was to come: gardens that would bloom, children who would play in the sun, lovers who would meet in the moonlight, and one day, a Savior who would call himself the light of the world. He separated light from darkness with the precision of a cosmic surgeon. He called the light day, not just a period of time, but a declaration of victory over chaos. He called the remaining darkness night, not as something evil, but as a time of rest, of peace, of serene reflection. Day one, done, perfect. The light had been created, but it needed a suitable stage for its eternal dance with darkness. But this was just the beginning. God was painting a cosmic symphony, and each day would be a movement more magnificent than the last. The second day arrived with God contemplating the waters that still covered the entire planet. It was necessary to organize, divide, and discipline them. The aquatic chaos had served its purpose, but now it was time to establish order and structure. Let the waters part. His voice echoed again through the cosmos, and physics itself bent to his will. An immense expanse formed, not just air, but a majestic, invisible dome that would divide the waters into two distinct realms. The upper waters were suspended in a protective blanket that would filter cosmic rays and create the perfect climate. The lower waters remained on the surface, waiting their turn to be shaped. Between them, the atmosphere was born, a complex mix of gases that would one day allow lungs to breathe and hearts to beat. The sky formed like an infinite cathedral, its invisible walls stretching as far as the eye could see. It was more than just empty space. It was a sanctuary where birds flew, where clouds danced, where rain formed and was sent as a blessing to the solid ground. God observed this atmospheric architecture and saw that it was good. Every molecule was in its place, every barometric pressure calculated with millimeter precision. The stage for life was being set with the meticulousness of a divine engineer who accepts nothing less than perfection. Second day, the architecture of the universe was taking shape, but the main stage was still missing, the solid ground where the real action would take place. The third day dawned with God looking down on the planet, still covered in water. It was time to reveal the solid foundation that would sustain everything to come. Earth, emerge! The command resonated in the depths of the ocean like a supernatural earthquake. Suddenly, tectonic plates, which hadn't yet existed, were instantly forged in the depths. The Earth's core solidified into iron and nickel. The mantle organized itself into precise layers, and then, bang! Volcanoes emerged from nothing and erupted with controlled fury, not to destroy but to create. Incandescent lava erupted from the depths, cooling instantly upon hitting the waters. The Earth's crust rose from the waters like a giant awakening from a millennia-long slumber. It was a spectacle that would make Hollywood look amateurish. Entire continents were born in epic convulsions that lasted only hours. Mountains rose like towers, their peaks piercing the clouds. Valleys formed like cradles awaiting rivers. Plains spread like green carpets awaiting the first seed. The seas, once chaotically scattered, suddenly found their place. Oceans formed, their complex currents now functioning perfectly. Lakes appeared like jewels scattered across the landscape. Rivers began to meander across the continents, carrying life wherever they went. God looked at the dry, bare earth, and his heart throbbed with anticipation. The foundation was laid, but a house without decoration is just a shell. It was time to furnish his creation. And then came the order that would transform this rocky planet into a paradise. Let the land dress in green. As if responding to a cosmic military command, vegetation emerged from the ground in a symphony of colors and shapes. It wasn't a gradual process lasting millions of years, but an instantaneous explosion of life that ensured every fertile area of the earth produced exactly what it was supposed to. Majestic trees rose like soldiers in formation, oaks with their towering trunks, redwoods reaching impossible impossible heights, cherry trees already laden with pink blossoms that perfumed the air. Their roots instantly sank down, creating complex underground networks that would share nutrients and information. The flowers painted the mountains with colors unheard of in any human catalogue. Roses as red as royal blood, white lilies like the purity of God himself, yellow tulips shining like tiny suns. Each petal was an individual work of art, each scent a unique signature of the Creator. The green grass spread like emerald carpets, soft under feet that didn't yet exist. Moss covered the rocks like natural velvet. Ferns unfurled their leaves in fractal patterns that mathematicians still struggle to fully understand. The seeds danced in the wind, a wind God created specifically to propagate life. Each seed contained the complete genetic code of its species, instructions that would take scientists centuries to decipher. The dandelions floated like microscopic parachutes, carrying the promise of new golden fields. Fruit trees bent under the weight of fruit, never touched by pesticides. Juicy red apples, golden pears oozing sweetness, grapes hanging in bunches that would make vineyards weep with envy. The first orchard on earth was already ripe, waiting for hands yet to be created. The earth was no longer bare, it was alive, pulsing with an energy that made every leaf vibrate with purpose, every strong trunk a promise of permanence, every delicate flower a whisper of beauty. God walked through his creation. Yes, he physically walked through it in those days, leaving traces that the angels preserved in his memory, and saw that it was not only good, but lush. It was a planetary garden that made what we now call tropical paradises seem like arid deserts. Third day, the earth was transformed from bare rock into a universal garden, but a symphony of life needed proper lighting. It was time to hang the lamps in the sky. Fourth, daytime needed its guardians. God gazed at the sky, which until then had been illuminated only by the primordial light he had created on the first day. It was a perfect light, but now his creation needed rhythm, cycles, seasons to mark the passage of time and create the eternal dance between light and darkness, with the delicacy of a cosmic watchmaker, but with the power of the one who created the laws of physics. God reached out his hand and illuminated the sun. It wasn't just a nuclear reaction that began. It was a cosmic furnace fueled by divine will, a ball of plasma that would burn with perfect intensity for billions of years. Each solar flare carried the Creator's energetic signature. Every ray of light emitted would be a messenger of life for Earth. The sun hung in the sky like a golden beacon, positioned with absolute mathematical precision, not too close so as not to scorch the sprouting life, nor too far so as not to freeze everything. The distance was perfect. 149. 6 million kilometers, a measurement we now call an astronomical unit, but which back then was simply right where it should be. The moon assumed its role as sentinel of the night, but it wasn't just a cold satellite. God created it to regulate the tides that would wash the shores, a romantic light for lovers yet to be born, a gentle nightlight for children who would one day fear the dark. Her silver face would reflect the sunlight with a softness that would bring poets to life and wolves to howl with pure existential joy. She would wax and wane in perfect cycles, marking months and seasons, governing feminine time in harmony with the masculine solar rhythm. And then, as if scattering diamonds on an endless tapestry, God hung the stars. Each was a distant sun, many times larger than our own, red giants that beat like cosmic hearts, white dwarfs as dense as compressed neutrons, neutron stars that spun thousands of times per second, black holes so massive they warped space-time around them, but they weren't scattered randomly. God arranged them into constellations, celestial maps that would guide navigators, inspire astrologers, and whisper stories to those who gazed at them in wonder. The Big Dipper would point north, Orion would guard the winter nights, the Southern Cross would guide explorers in the southern hemisphere. Each constellation was a work of art, connecting points of light light across trillions of kilometers of empty space. The night sky became a cosmic cathedral where every star was a candle lit in eternal worship. The Milky Way spread out like a river of light, revealing that our galaxy was just one among billions, each with billions of stars, each with the potential to warm planets God had already planned for the future. Day and night, seasons and years, tides and cycles, everything worked in a symphony of absolute precision. Time was no longer an abstraction. It was now guarded by celestial guardians who marked every second, every minute, every hour with divine reliability. Future farmers would know when to plant. Lovers would know when the moon was full for romance. Children would have dawn for play and dusk for sleep. The cycles of life had acquired their cosmic clock. Fourth day, time has found its perfect rhythm, but the stage was set, the lighting perfect, and yet silence. It was time to fill the world with the symphony of life. Fifth day, the waters cried out for life, and God responded with an abundance that made the oceans overflow with joy. God contemplated the vast seas and the endless skies. They were perfect in structure, but devoid of life. It was like having built a magnificent concert hall and left it silent, unacceptable to a God who is music, rhythm, harmony, and life itself. Live, let the waters boil with life. The command swept through every ocean, every lake, every river, every stream. Suddenly, the waters that had been sterile moments before exploded into a biological symphony that vibrated every drop of water with life force. The oceans literally seethed with instantaneous motion. From the deepest depths to the surface waves, life erupted simultaneously on microscopic and gigantic scales. Plankton were born by the billions, tiny organisms that formed the base of the food chain and colored the ocean in swirling, luminescent greens and blues. Each one was a perfect chemical factory, converting sunlight into food and producing the oxygen that future land creatures would need to breathe. The graceful jellyfish begin their eternal dance, their transparent bodies beating like underwater hearts. Some are as small as coins, others as huge as cars. All are beautiful, even human words. Their tentacles flowed like silk ribbons, and their bioluminescence transformed nighttime oceans into fields of shooting stars. Coral reefs exploded on the ocean floor with a kaleidoscope of colors that made rainbows seem simple. Each coral era, in reality, was a colony of thousands of tiny animals building underwater cities that housed countless species. Brain coral, staghorn coral, elkhorn coral. Each species has a distinct architecture, each structure an underwater cathedral. And then came the fish, millions of species, each designed to fill a specific niche in the aquatic ecosystem. Schools of silver sardines moved like liquid metal in the water, their synchronized swimming more precise than that of any human army. Muscular tuna propelled themselves through the currents like underwater rockets. Delicate angelfish floated among the coral gardens like living jewels. Great whales ruled the depths. Blue whales, longer than school buses, traveled thousands of miles with their songs across the ocean depths, carrying messages only they understood. Humpback whales began their migratory journeys, following routes that GPS satellites don't yet exist to map. The dolphins leapt playfully through the waves, their intelligence shining in eyes that seemed almost human. The orcas patrolled magnificently, like underwater royalty, their black and white patterns as distinctive as fingerprints. Ancient sharks have fulfilled their role as part of the ocean cleanup. Their perfectly designed bodies have not changed because perfection needs no improvement. Great white sharks, tiger sharks, and hammerhead sharks, each is a perfectly balanced predator to maintain the health of the ocean ecosystem. The ocean floor came alive with creatures that seemed like something out of a dream. Color-changing octopuses, whose intelligence rivaled that of land animals. Crabs that moved across sandy bottoms, their shells becoming homes they would trade like hermit entrepreneurs. Ancient sea turtles that began journeys spanning decades and thousands of miles. And then God looked up and decided that the heavens needed their choir too. Let the heavens be decorated with birds. A wind itself became pregnant with life. Feathers began to form in the air, wings sprouted from nothingness, and suddenly the sky exploded in a symphony of flight that made the angels applaud. Eagles soared on thermals, with their keen eyesight capable of spotting prey from miles away, and with wings designed for maximum efficiency that human engineers still study today. Falcons became living missiles, their hunting precision calibrated to maintain the perfect balance in the ecosystem. The tiny hummingbirds began their high-speed hover, their wings beating so fast they vanished, their needle-like beaks perfect for accessing flower nectar, their iridescent feathers catching the sunlight like scattered emeralds. The graceful swallows began their aerial dance, catching insects with their wings, and their migratory patterns were programmed for journeys across continents and back. The geese formed their V formations, an aerodynamic efficiency that was discovered independently of human aviation centuries later. Peacocks display their magnificent tail feathers in displays of beauty that make sunsets envious. Bright red cardinals like Christmas ornaments, brilliant blue jays like summer skies, cheerful robins like spring mornings. Every bird is a work of flying art. The wise owls took over as night watchmen. Their silent flight and keen hearing made them perfectly suited for nocturnal hunting. Their hoots would become the soundtrack of peaceful nights for future generations. Songbirds filled the early morning air with symphonies that composers would spend their lives trying to imitate. Nightingales, larks, canaries, each voice unique, each song a melody of worship that lifts to heaven. The colorful parrots began to chatter, their intelligence and mimetic abilities fascinating humans for millennia. The macaws, bright as flying rainbows, had impressive wingspans and impressive personalities. A sky came alive with wings, songs, calls, and the joy of flight that amazed land creatures. Migratory routes were established across continents. Nesting grounds appeared in trees, cliffs, and hidden places. An intricate web of aerial life began its eternal dance. They were filled with breath, life, and divine blessing. The Creator sang over them in a voice that resonated through every wing, every beak, every feather. Multiply, fill the seas and the skies, be fruitful and increase in number, subdue your kingdoms. They obeyed enthusiastically, causing the water and air to vibrate with life-giving energy. Schools of fish grew. Flocks of birds expanded, eggs were laid, chicks were born, and a cycle of life began with its beautiful, eternal rhythm. Fifth day, the waters and skies pulsed with abundant life. God contemplated his work. Fish leaping for joy, dolphins playing in the waves, eagles soaring through the clouds, songbirds filling the dawn with their music. We knew it was good. Not just good, it was magnificent. Yet the earth still awaited living beings to walk upon its surface, creatures that carried the breath of God in their lungs and his image in their hearts. Sixth day, part 1. Mainland called its inhabitants. God beheld a land he had prepared, fertile soil, lush vegetation, freshwater streams, and a perfect climate. It was a paradise awaiting its inhabitants, but the silence of earthly life still reigned. Birds flew overhead, fish swam in the nearby streams, but the land itself remained uninhabited. It was time to fill this earthly paradise with creatures that would make every trail an adventure, every forest a living community, and every field a wonderful habitat. Come, beasts, cattle, returning beings, each according to its kind. The earth itself trembled in anticipation, and then, explosion of life. God formed the beasts of the earth with hands that shaped galaxies, but he endowed earthly creatures with a special intimacy. Each animal was created by hand, each species designed to perform a unique function in the ecosystem, more complex than any computer program. The magnificent lions roared with joy, their manes flowing, their power contained, ready to maintain their balance as high-ranking predators. Striped tigers prowled the grasslands that were instantly familiar to them. Leopards, spotted, found trees to climb, their muscles tense to hunt efficiently. The enormous elephants announced their arrival. Their intelligence and memory created social structures that humans still study. Their tusks curved elegantly, their thick skin protected them, and their trunks were versatile tools that could lift tree trunks or delicately pick flowers. The massive hippos occupied the river pools. Their seemingly docile appearance concealed powerful jaws. Rhinoceroses in ancient times began to graze. Their horns were impressive defense mechanisms. Their prehistoric appearance remained unchanged because sometimes perfection doesn't require evolution. Giraffes elegantly stretched their necks to reach the treetops. Their patterns were as unique as fingerprints. Their hearts were powerful enough to pump blood to those incredible necks. Zebras, painted with black and white stripes, galloped